p.m. on Tuesday, July 14th, and I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, would you take roll call?
Councilmember Streetman.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Cohen. Mayor Pounds.
Here.
Councilmember Bogosian. Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments today? All right, approval of the previous meeting minutes. Do I hear a
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, moving on to the dashboard. Douglas, you want to run through that for us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Scott. In your packet is the dashboard. Would just note that personnel vacancies, we still have an HR manager position vacant. Unfortunately, having a challenging time filling that one. We had another candidate accept the position and then later rescind the acceptance. So we're continuing to work on that, but it's been a challenge. 2 police officer vacancies. In the packet shows 1 paramedic, firefighter, plus 1 firefighter. Additionally, we have a fire marshal vacancy in the fire department. And Public Works, we have the Assistant Public Works Director position open.
And that's to backfill Robert?
Yes. Yeah, that's Robert's position, and I don't think we've started searching on that job yet, but we will soon. Rest of the categories on the dashboard, I think, are trending as normal. Happy to answer any questions there. Same with the short-term rental in your packets, the short-term rental dashboard. Currently at 1,715 licensed short-term rentals. Again, you have that translation to make it jive with 2 years ago worth of data. You'd add 119 to that to get to 1834. So unless there's any questions.
Can I say something
Yeah,
about
sure,
this
absolutely.
short-term
Go
rental
ahead.
report? So, I think we're finally at a good place to tell a real story, because the reporting started, I think, back in the 2023, maybe 2024 license year, so we have some history to this year over year. And as I look at this, I see that short-term rentals are up 107 year over year, so we're approaching 40% out the gate, and we're only 2 months in. If I start looking at the single-family residential, where there's the greatest change, and we had 65 added year over year with no real new construction, because the dwelling units are only up by 4. So I think what it's telling us is that the growth is in the conversion of existing homes, not in any new development, which is pretty obvious since we don't have a whole lot of new development. But I think the issue is becoming not just the number of STRs, but the growth in the neighborhoods, and that's where I get concerned. I think at some point soon, and maybe, I don't know how, but I'll let y'all tell me how that goes, but I think as stewards of the city, we have to periodically review where these current trends are going, and if they're going toward or away, who we want to be. I think it's time to start a conversation regarding the growth of the short-term rentals on our island. And I think it fits with the rebranding process that we've started. You know, that rebranding is all part of the comp plan and the family friendly, and I'm all for it. But there's another end to that sentence, which is primarily residential. And that's where the short-term rental conversation comes in that conversation. But I think we have to identify, as I look at these trends, who we want to be, and just to have a conversation around it, a good, civil, productive conversation. I don't know where that starts, though.
David, anybody else?
Henry.
Oh, Steve, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we should periodically review. We've said that all along. Ever since we had the referendum regarding short-term rentals that was soundly defeated, and even prior to that, we said that we would periodically review where we are with STRs, and I think we should do that. That's due diligence, and as you said, being stewards of the city, that's our responsibility to do that. The addition of additional licenses for STRs at 4%, the single-family dwellings, don't concern me as much as, I mean, how many of those are actually being rented? They may have license, but are they being rented? I mean, we ought to do that kind of due diligence, look at it and say, okay, some people buy licenses just for self-protection because they don't know. We may become another folly, and folly is very controversial, as we all know. So I don't know what the answer is, other than I do agree that we should periodically look at it. I don't think it ought to be tied into rebranding at this point. I mean, I think rebranding, when we get to that subject later today, to me, that means something different than just jumping to an STR discussion. All right? So that may be a piece of it at some point, but that's far down the road. We're not even close to bringing rebranding into this conversation.
Now, if I may, I didn't mean to tie those two together. All I'm saying is that we look at our comp plan and we look at the goals in that comp plan, which at the beginning of this, in January, we sat down and said, we like the goals, we're good, we're not going to change it, which was family-friendly, primarily residential. All I'm saying is, looking at those goals is a good thing. We're looking at the goal of the family-friendly. I love it. I think we also need to look, as I look at these trends, as also primarily residential, as I look at the trend. I'm not suggesting that we go back to any kind of referendum or anything like that, but I think a good, solid conversation of who we are and where we're going is productive for this council.
One other
That's all.
point, if I may, and I'll be quiet and let other people talk. Family-friendly goal, we're already there. We are a family-friendly residential island, and we have been. I've been here 42 years. It's been family-friendly ever since I've been here. I think it was probably family-friendly before then. I actually took exception of some of the recent news reports that branded us through the statements as having to look at becoming a family-friendly destination. We're already there. Do we need to fine tune it? Yes. Does every municipality, does every island, does every community need to look at what their living standards are, the way they present themselves from a safety standpoint, in our case, from a tourism standpoint, because we have such a large number of visitors? Yes, we do. So I think rebranding, and again, I don't want to get too far into that because I know we're going to be discussing it, is a totally different animal. And when we did the strategic plan back in 2022, if I remember correctly, either our mission statement or our vision basically at that point said we should maintain a family-friendly destination, Isle of Palms. To me, when we put that together, and I was part of that team, some of you weren't, I realize that, we were already recognizing through a lot of discussion in those meetings that we had at the Riley Institute, that we, and the input we were getting from our residents, that we were indeed a family-friendly destination already with a good balance between short-term rentals, full-time residents, and second property owners. That was all established at that point. But we also put in place, with all the different goals that we had under that and priorities, that we did need to periodically, look at where we are, as you mentioned, and I don't disagree with that, and just make sure that we're staying in a place where we have that balance.
I don't think we're disagreeing on every
We may
issue.
not be, but I wanted to be clear where I'm coming from. I'm through, so thank you.
Just a thought, and I think that maybe, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but where you were talking about the mix and everything. David, chime in if I'm off base here, but when we were on planning commission, it just took a couple of weeks. It was fairly easy because I think we're getting all the data, and plus the technology's a lot better. But I'd kind of be interested in seeing, let's see the map again, and let's just get the detail on the counts. Let's find out kind of where they are. And I don't know, the other thing too, year over year, how many new ones do we have? How many have fallen, how much churn are we having? And I think that data is readily available, probably even through Rentalscape or anything that we have. But to refresh, we had, we have 6 or 7 zones, I think.
Yeah.
We had 6 or 7 zones, but we were isolated, like Front Beach, the neighborhood, the commercial district, and things of that nature. And we had it split out by Wild Dunes, not Wild Dunes, commercial, et cetera. But we had it by units, and we also had it by rooms. So this gave us it gave us it was all on one page. I don't know if you remember that snapshot.
I do.
Yeah, and it was, I think we took maybe 2-3 weeks to get it together once we got off. It really wasn't that difficult. And I'm wondering, maybe we kick that off just so that it's just a piece of information so that everybody kind of knows where we really are.
Yeah, and I think the more information we have, the better when we talk, as we look at this.
Maybe we can take that offline and figure out
Yeah.
how to do that.
Yeah.
The planning commission did it last time, I think. But, okay.
David, I feel like you had some consulting help, and I think you did a big chunk of the
Lifting.
lifting. But I don't know, it was not like an easy staff project that we churned out in a matter of a
I
few
wouldn't
hours.
expect, that's not.
It was-
You had that look in your eye.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
It's always super easy, and then looked at me and was like,
Not so much.
And I'll go and say, when we did that, we saw some different trends that, again, it'd be nice to look at it, 3 years later?
Yeah.
To see how that's, because one of the things you kind of brought up was, we were seeing the second homes declining, where we've always had this kind of vision of a third. Well, actually, the number of second homes are declining, and they're kind of splitting equally between becoming permanent residents and short-term rentals. But when you think about a second home that's only occupied probably a fraction of the year, turning over to become fully occupied, that is an impact on our island. It changes the number of people. How, again, we just noticed it, and I don't know if that trend's continuing to grow or not, because it'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah, and we didn't have Rentalscape back then, so I think to Rusty's point, are they being rented or not being rented? That can be determined now. I don't know if the city do you all have a subscription to like AirDNA at all?
No.
You might want to get that. That's a really good wealth of information that looks at occupancy trends and things of that nature. It's pretty inexpensive. But yeah, those are, maybe, we can take this offline, but maybe there's a way over the next few months we can try to cobble that information back together again.
so would we have a goal of potentially bringing that back to this committee in August, whatever?
I
it
don't
kind
know
of.
if we'll be able to do it by August, but it's
Yeah.
not, this isn't a burning, this is something I think we got to do it right. We might have to, like I said, we can talk about
Yeah.
how to get there, but
Okay.
I don't want to, you've got a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask?
Sure,
question?
Ashley, go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
Douglas, don't we have numbers on the active, number of rentals that actually provide rental numbers?
Yes, so we do have, and what I'm hearing is, yes, we do have numbers going back in time.
Actually have revenue?
Yep, we tie that to revenue. I think what I'm hearing is a little bit of tracking geographically where they kind of were over time, and where, if they're migrating, really kind of a geographic look at where they are. And
It's all of that.
Right.
That as well, Ashley. I think we got to look at the actives for sure, yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's what I was asking, is how many are actually active out of that, what is it, 17, 15 that have licenses, compare that to year over year. But also, I've heard that number, I don't think I've ever seen anything like official, but I've been told that it's around the 12 to 1,300 that are rentals that are actually active and producing revenue. But also in the packet on that page, the distribution of 4% and 6% dwellings over time. I mean, you know, me reading that chart, it says 4%, you know, primary residence from 2010 to 2025 is 33% to 37%. I mean, is this chart, or is that inaccurate, or is that, I mean, because that to me shows that full-time residents
Well,
are increasing.
yeah, I can assure you that it, in all confidence, that it's not all necessarily apples to apples throughout that whole period of time. I think, Douglas, you know, when we look back at the trends, but, so, I mean, I'd even like to peel that back as well and just verify it. There's nothing wrong with validating, but even this year, and I know you have a challenge from year to year, when we look at parcels, when we look at building, when we look at, is it a townhouse or not a townhouse, or they've got the active license out in the backyard, the 2-for-1s, we're not at, nothing's been adjusted backward as far as I'm understanding.
We definitely have a hard time comparing year to year to year because licensing is slightly different. The 119, that's the most recent example. It switched from one bucket to another bucket. We had other years where we talked about a short-term rental cap. That causes a spike. So we have looked at, you know, the numbers over the years, and it's like every other year you have to put an asterisk by that number because something's happened that makes it hard to exactly compare year over year. So there is a certain amount of challenge with looking back in time, but we can certainly pull the data, and we could, you know, we will continuing to add an asterisk where we need to explain the differences as best we can. But actually, I guess your point
Sorry, go ahead.
is, I do think that, and I think your point is that when you look at the short-term rental dashboard and you're looking at the just straight 4% primary resident number, that number is pretty flat, but I guess it's 1% up. But it's back to the 2020 numbers. And that is from the county. That's independent of our licensing data and independent of, but to me, that's a fairly flat number. Is that the number you were looking at, Ashley? 37%
Right,
in
on the left
2025?
side from 2010, it says
She was going from
33%.
2010,
And then 2025, it says 37%. But, you know, also, I think it should be relatively easy to see, you know, out of the total number of licenses, which ones are producing zero revenue. So we could just see how many are actually active out of that total, you know, 1,700 number. I mean, that might be a good asterisk to have.
Yeah, you've got a page in the financial report that gives you by revenue,
Yeah, page 49 of the packet.
Yeah,
50 actually.
But it's from 0 to,
Yeah. Yeah.
it said 0 to 25.
yeah, 0 to 25.
I would just,
First, yeah,
Yes,
we can get
we can get
that. We
that.
can get zero. And I don't
it's
know that,
actually 0. That way we know how many are just getting licenses just to have them.
We can get that
And
information.
and all this is good. This is all the stuff I think we need to
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at, peel back. Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if license applications don't go up starting tomorrow.
Yep, just because we're talking about it.
It's good to talk about it,
But
but
it-
we're
it's
talking
gotta
about it
be
for
on the table,
20
I'm
minutes.
sorry.
It's a
Yeah.
different matter.
You
Yeah.
just brought up too much.
All right, any more conversation on that? Okay, review of the financials. Deborah?
Sure. So this is a preliminary look at our year end for June 30th, 2026. And as of today, or as of June 30th, we have collected $28.9 million in revenue to a budget of 32. We are forecasting that will come in at about $33 million.
Sorry, Deborah, what page are you on? Try to get it up on the screen, so.
10.
Thank you.
We have posted all of our transfers for the year, and overall expenses we have expensed $25 million to a budget of $30 million, and we're forecasting $27.2 million to end the year. Right now, our year-to-date net position is 3.8, but we are forecasting that we should hopefully be at 6.5 by the time everything settles. So I'm going to go over the each fund to tell you some of the changes that have occurred and what we are anticipating for year end. The general fund is, of course, our largest fund with all the activity, and the general fund has reported revenue of $15.7 million to a budget of 16. We're anticipating that that will land at $17.2 million. Property taxes, we are already over what we projected. However, we have not gotten our June accrual in yet because we don't have those numbers. So that will definitely exceed what we, even more, what we anticipate, what we budgeted for FY26, as well as the debt service portion. That will, is at 99% right now of budget, but it should at least meet budget. Our local options sales taxes, that we're at 79% of the budget right now, but we are missing 3 months. And when we go through the tourism charts, you'll see that we're still missing 3 months of income there. So we should definitely meet and exceed that. For business licenses, we have pretty much collected everything that we're going to collect. We have $2.3 million collected to a budget of 2.5. We think that all of the licenses are in, so we did not meet budget on that front. But they are kind of flat to where we were last year, or at least 98% of where we were year over year. For business permits, we have collected $1,068,000 to a budget of $798,000. We are 34% over our budget, but we're 90% of where we were last year. And that is, of course, due to that large renovation project that took place last year. For our STRs, we're flat compared year over year, and we're 95% of our budget. So we don't anticipate collecting any more. That will be about $79,000 under where we projected. Other licenses, we are still waiting on some additional payments. So we anticipate of collecting about 2.2 more, well, it'll be about $400,000 more of where we are currently. Our court fees, we're anticipating collecting right at budget, the $550,000. And then for the state shared portion, which part of that money comes from, the state accommodation fees, we still have the last quarter to collect, so that percentage of the fees will go into that account. Parking is we anticipate that we will meet budget. Hopefully, we are not forecasting anything other than that. And then other revenues have already exceeded the budget, and that's due to the fire, Fund 40 Fire 1% account.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What about the short-term rental licenses, 79% of last year revenue?
Licenses, revenue, it's flat to last year.
So the rental licenses did not go up. The rental license money's collected.
Right. We collected 1.5 this year, and we collected 1.5 last year.
So it's flat.
It's flat, yes.
Hey, Deborah, quick question on the business licenses. I think later on, we're going to go through kind of the difference in that revenue, their declared revenues.
Yes.
And is that 100, that shortfall that we have in the business licenses, is some of that maybe due to that, is that one that didn't have the business license in that year?
Yes, that would be in this
So
year.
that we might actually collect some of that back in the current fiscal year if we,
Right, we may, yeah, you're right, we may collect that. There, the building department is working on that. I'll check and see where they are on that front, but yes, that company is in collections. As far as our expenses in the general fund,
Quick question before you go.
go ahead, David.
yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The parking lot, the parking revenue, what was the reasoning that it's showing up so far behind? Is it we've just not collected the money, or?
Well, we're only missing 1 month in parking, but the parking, remember, the parking agreement changed too. So we used to get 67% of, I don't remember the percentages, but the percentages changed. Where the city used to get a higher percentage,
Used to get 76.
76, now it's 67.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
But
So
your
we
for-
had-
your forecast is right on top of budget.
Yeah, it's right on budget, but
So it's not a shortfall.
compared to last year,
Right.
I think are you looking at last year or just
No, I'm
why
looking
we're
at-
not getting it?
Like the parking meter, our parking meter revenue, you got 393 to date with a budget of 599. So it's like a 200,
But you got a forecast of 599.
but you got a forecast of 599. So we're expecting this month 200. That was kind of my question.
It's a
It's a-
big
it's a-
month, but
it's a
it's
big
not
month.
200.
Yeah, it may not meet, the forecast may be a little aggressive.
Okay, that kind of answered my question.
Yes.
It is
We're
awesome.
hoping that we will meet budget, but I'm sure it's not, unless we have a really good month. Because
But
it didn't
some of
rain,
those-
I mean, summer was pretty steady.
Would some of those revenues show up somewhere? Because as I recall, when we approved that adjustment, it was supposed to be revenue neutral. So the percentage went up, but there was also a shift about collections on the ticketing, I believe.
That's
So
on,
that-
that's on
Fees went
the,
up.
Yeah,
that's
that-
on the court side.
So those should be that should have gone up, our share of that should have gone up while the parking may have gone down.
And it did, our share did go up on that, we get 100%, but, it's not as healthy as we think. I think because people are actually following the rules, I mean, it just didn't go up as much as we thought on the court side.
Plus the rates went up. Didn't the rates go up?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years?
I think so.
Yeah, it's 2 years.
I have to double check again.
Yeah. Never mind. Second.
For expenses on the general fund, we're anticipating some savings in the Department of Mayor and Council. For general fund, we, of course, had a position for the beach resilience person. That position was not filled, so that there's some savings there in the salary and wages. These expenses also include our payroll accrual that we do at the end of the year to capture the last week of the payroll that happens in June, that's paid out in July. So that's already in there. For the police department, we are projecting that it will come in on the budget. But just to make a note that the department did receive a donation of a Tesla vehicle for the police department to upfit that Tesla to be a police standard vehicle that could be used in the fleet. That upfitting cost over $10,000. So that created a overage in the line item for them. But they're still under budget in other areas. The fire department has struggled with staffing and vacation and FMLA employees and overtime. So they are actually over the salary. The real number is 4.8 to a budget of 4.7. So they have exceeded their salary and wages line for the year. Operations, however, we're projecting that they will come in on the budget there. Public Works, some of the same issues with salaries and wages there, a budget of 1.1 and actual number of 1.2. They have some overages in their operating costs as well, mostly due to vehicle repairs and maintenance due to their aging fleet, as well as some temporary labor being over budget. For the building planning and engineering department, they have some savings in the salary and wages due to some positions not being filled the early part of the year. However, they hired a contractor to fill one of those positions, or fill in one of those positions until the position was filled and the person became certified. So the contractor line has caused them to be over budget in the operating expenses, as well as they have a aging vehicle, and we spent quite a bit of money on repairs for that vehicle this year, which will be replaced in next year's budget, this year budget that we're in now. Rec, there are no notables there. There, for our legal department, there should be some savings there. I'm on page 12. There should be some savings there due to the amount of money that we budgeted for legal fees. We have not, in the past, we have had quite a few legal fees, but this year they have been much, much less. So we should have some savings there. BS&O is straight payroll, and there's a savings there of about $9,000. For our capital fund account, we, of course, you know, most of all of that expenses are coming from the large drainage project that we have at Waterway, and the revenue is either coming from the general fund or grants. And you can see that on our summary sheet. Some notables for our municipal accommodation tax. We still have one more month to collect. We have the county pass-through quarter pass-through to collect on that. Some of the savings are being generated from the rescue boat being deferred, as well as the Dominion Energy line being deferred until FY27. For hospitality, we anticipate a few more payments to the tune of about $70,000. And then some savings there are from the boat being deferred, because that payment was kind of split into 3 different funds. For the state accommodation, we have one more quarter to collect that we have not collected yet. And then some of the savings there are, there was a server that we deferred, the rescue boat that we deferred. And for beach preservation, we have already met and exceeded our budget, revenue budget for the year. That is, part of it is because of the interest that we're earning on that account. The saving, well, we didn't have any savings. It actually is over budget, and that is due to about $1.2 million in emergency spending that we did the early part of FY fiscal year, the first half of the fiscal year, mostly sandbags. The marina will not meet its revenue budget, and it will not meet its expense budget, and that is because we had anticipated doing the dredging project, which of course had grant money in it, so we didn't recognize grant money, neither are we recognizing an expense in FY26. It all has been moved to 27 and reallocated to, portion of that is going to the Beach Preservation Fund. Disaster Recovery Fund has...
Quick question on that one, Deborah.
Yes,
When
sir.
you say the revenue's not going to meet the forecast, are the operating revenues meeting the forecast, i.e. from the marina and the restaurant? And it's just the grant that's not
It's just a
coming in.
grant. It's
So
just-
the others are doing?
Yes.
They're doing fine, okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
The disaster recovery fund, all of their revenue really comes from interest, and so they have met and exceeded that budget for the year. And then, like I said earlier, the other funds, that is our rec, our fire department 1%, and the victims assistance program, that we received more money in the fire department 1%. In turn, we had more expenses in the fire department 1%. Okay. So, page 13, we are looking at our cash balances, and we have $67.1 million, of which $8 million is related to the Wild Dunes escrow. That is an interest-bearing account and has recognized interest for the month of June in the tune of about $10,000, which all goes to them. Interest for this month, we collected about $178,000, and we have collected over $2 million in interest year-to-date. And we see our fund balance, we think should end at about $58.9 million, if everything holds true. Give or take.
And that's with the Wild Dunes money?
No. That's not with the Wild Dunes money. No, that's not with the Wild Dunes money.
Thank you.
This is page 14. Oh, this is just a reconciliation of the cash balances versus the fund balance. And it's just showing what we anticipate based on the forecast, what's left to come in and what's some of the accruals that need to happen. On page 15 through 17, this of course will change because these are just, forecast numbers of where we predict the fund balance will be as we continue to update our June numbers, and we'll do it every month until we close, until the auditors perform and we finalize our numbers. This is just where we anticipate the fund balances will end and how we will look after all these major purchases have taken place. Now we can go to our revenue schedules, our tourism schedules, page 18. For the month of May, we collected $245,000. We're still anticipating to collect $276 for our muni accommodations tax, hoping to end that at around 2.3. And these are just fees. For 19, page 19, this is our state accommodations tax. We are anticipating to collect $850,000 for the last quarter, which will put us at about 1%. We did have a conversation with the county, not the state. We had a conversation with the county. We spoke to them in regards to how funds are collected when they're late and how the city should get paid, or when the city should get paid. It was a great conversation with them. They actually told us that they do the collection on our behalf. So when someone doesn't pay, they send them a notice that they haven't paid. They collect the late fees on our behalf, and of course we get a portion of those late fees because they do charge a percentage from the county. So as we have talked about this before, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, in reconciling from the county and state to what we actually record on these schedules, it's a little difficult, but we'll talk about that when we get to these. But they are collecting on our behalf. There are some companies that do not pay in a timely manner, but they do send out notices, and they do send us the money when they do collect. For Charleston County pass-through, we're expecting one more quarter, and we're projecting that will be $338,000, which would cause an increase of about 13% over prior year. Page 21, the hospitality taxes. For the month of May, we collected 176. This is still trending at 1%. We, like I said, still have a few more to collect to pay their June dues, their June hospitality taxes. So we're hoping that these projections will be at 1% or higher. Beach preservation, same as our muni. So that we collected $245,000 and projecting 11% over prior year. For our local option, that we need to collect 3 more months. They did send one payment in this week, yesterday, actually. So that April forecast that we were projecting at 124, it actually came in at 128. So hopefully that continues to trend higher than we anticipated for May and June, and we'll be over the 5% that we currently have projected. Now on to Schedule 49, which does a year-over-year comparisons of short, this is business licenses. So in 2000 license year ending 2025, I think they call this 2024, we had 1,911 licenses, which paid $1,685,000 compared to the last license year of 1,973 licenses, which generated less revenue at 1.5. So we see the comparison here. We are 62 licenses down, and that 62 licenses is $147,000 less money. Now, some of the things that we did find, because that's a $41 million difference year over year, some of the things that we did find. There are a few companies that make up this number, but the largest 3, which I will give you, because you have some companies that make more in 1 year and some companies that make less. But the overall net effect of these 3 companies is causing the majority of this $41 million variance. There is a company that reported $21 million in FY 24, well, in license year 24, 25, that did not report any revenue in license year 25, 26. That's half of the money that is missing. There's another company.
So Deborah, that was 2 years that they missed?
1.
You said 20, the 25, 26
Yes.
license year. Okay,
Yes.
great.
And then there was another company that reported, so this is the difference. This $12.8 million is the difference. There's a company that has multiple, does businesses in multiple municipalities. They reported all of the income that they did from all of those municipalities instead of just doing Isle of Palms. So when they paid their license for 2025, 2026, it was $12.8 million less because they were reporting too much the first year.
Did they report it all in another municipality? Or they just didn't split it out?
They didn't split it out. And I'm not sure how they reported to the other municipalities. They just told us that they had all this revenue, which they really didn't. So they paid a higher license fee in 2024/2025 than they did in 25-26. And then there was another company that just reported less sales than they did the previous year. There's no reasoning, they didn't give us a reason why they reported $6 million less.
This is just one company? Do
Just one company, assuming that they just did that much.
we know what type of company it is?
It's a lumber company,
Lumber company, okay.
yes. So I guess they just didn't sell as much lumber.
Did you find that over this, the smaller, the mom and pops that have like one rental unit, that overall the smaller market was down also? Because that's what I'm hearing, like there wasn't as much rentals this past year as the year before
For business licenses?
for business license and rentals.
We really didn't focus on the little ones
Okay.
because we were trying to
Right,
figure out
the big
what
ones.
made up this 41 million. So we
Okay.
really didn't focus on the big one, and the smaller ones. And I'm not sure if that,
Okay.
This is more of a process question. So we kind of asked this question I think at the last meeting, because we sort of just eyeballed it and said, hey, we're down $40 million. Is there, or should there be, and maybe this is again another kind of off this meeting process look, but how can we detect these things at the front end? If we're looking, if we have the database that says, hey, this year they recorded so much revenue and they had a license, in this current year, we ought to be able to say that this business is still here, but for some reason, to me, this is one where they just didn't apply for the license, but for some reason, it didn't kick out in our processes. So how do we, $20 million is 5% of our total reported revenue, which is 5% of our business license revenue. That's a big chunk. So how do we address, maybe this is something that we ought to take a look at, and if it's happening here, do we need to kind of take a look holistically? What kind of detections should we have in our financial controls to ensure that we're making sure that people are filing their business licenses and that we're following up in a timely manner? Because I think this is going to have to be we're going to have to go back and retro collect this, I think, aren't we?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I'll kind of take a stab at that, and I think this is part of what the staff would like to work through with the admin committee is coming up with a little bit of a process at different parts of the year. One would be this analysis, kind of high level, just looking at the bigger accounts year over year. That would be a part of it. I think part of it would be the auditing that we've talked about, the kind of middle-sized companies that we talked about, either using the county for those or finding an auditing firm that would go kind of select some of those businesses to do auditing. And the other one that, and Deborah's been doing some work with some of our other neighboring communities on just tightening up the application process on the front end. So
And by the
I
way,
think
this
it's-
is really good to see. It's good
Yeah.
that we can now, at least we're seeing the visibility to come through so that we can detect these and at least go back and try to.
And this was a big part of, we knew and I think we hoped that having an additional finance person would give us kind of a little bit additional manpower to be able to do these deeper dives into the numbers. So hoping this is a little bit of a fruit of that labor, and it'll allow us to kind of get a higher view on all of these, as well as look in at the lower level right at the application process. Right now, and the staff at the licensing department, they're getting 5,000 applications, and they're just right now they're just putting them in.
Cranking them out.
They're accepting, and we've talked about that it's they're signing that it's an accurate submittal, but we're not vetting that. We're not other than informally looking at what's happened year over year. We're not analyzing that deeply, and again, that was a big part of having that additional position to give us the manpower to do that.
Great.
So we'll work through, the staff, work through with the admin committee on what that process could look like and come up with some proposals.
And maybe next month, give us an update on where we are with the collection on that one? maybe?
Yes.
That should be a good, I mean, should be a bit of a.
Yes.
Thank you.
And as far as the revenue, comparing the revenue that's on this report to the revenue that's on the financial statement, we're still working on that. One of the challenges is, timing, and also with this schedule, from my understanding from the building department, if they found out that somebody has applied for a license this year, and they realized that they did not do business, they should have had a license the previous year, but did not, then those numbers may also be in here in the current year instead of the prior year. So there's some,
So Deborah, should this number compare then, if I look at the 1.5 for the 25, 26, should that compare to the 2.3 that you had up on the screen just a little while ago?
it should to a certain extent, but remember,
I wonder
we're,
if we're not, I wonder if we're not capturing it all. I mean, this is a good first pass, but yeah, that's a $800,000 difference.
right, but yeah, so we're still working on that. We're still working, trying to piece together the best way to kind of capture that and compare that to what's reporting on the general, what's reported in the ledger. So that's still a work in process. We're still working on that,
Good
trying to
news
figure out the
is-
best
Good news
way.
is it's higher in the ledger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. More money is better. As far as 50, the page 50, this is kind of the same thing with short-term rentals. For the license year 24-25, we had a total of 1,793 licenses compared to 1,733. That's down 60 licenses, which 69 of them were 6% at 6%, and the other 9 increase on the 4% side. Now, the revenue is reported, the gross revenue reported for 2024, 2025 was $145 million versus $142 million.
Is the 119 treated the same on both of these?
No, the 119 would be on the prior page, would be out of this page in the 2025.
For apples to apples, the 1793, you'd have to take out 119, or 118, I guess.
Was it in this year?
So I think that happened.
No.
Yeah.
119 would have been in the 24-25 data and not in the 25-26 data. And their revenue would not have been, it would have been same thing. The
So you got-
revenue,
you got the-
that revenue in 25-26 would be in the business license revenue.
Yeah,
And not the
reporting
rental
changed
license.
in May of '25, so it was
Right,
the
that's
26.
correct.
Okay, so a little bit apple orange, yeah,
Yes.
all right, okay.
And we can make a note of that. And like I said, we're still trying to, 119. We're still trying to reconcile the revenue there. I don't think that we will ever be able to reconcile this revenue. There are just too many variables to reconcile revenue from what is reported on gross.
But these are what's reported on their business license, is that correct?
This is what is reported on their short-term rental license, yes.
So can I, bear with me on this one.
Okay.
And I've tried to ask this question a few times, and maybe we just take it as an action item to try to get it reconciled for next meeting. So if this is $143 million roughly, because that's the number that's reported.
Yep.
If you take 1% of that, that's 1 point, you know where I'm going.
Yep. Yep, we've been down
So
this.
that's $1.4 million, that you would think that would be generating $1.4 million in A-tax. And then if we go to, and I don't know, Joshua, can you go back to the municipal tax sheet?
It's going to be page 18, Joshua.
would it be generating 1.4 or would it be subject to the tax?
It's 1%
Well, we're-
tax. so it
we're
should be
collecting-
generating
Yeah, go ahead.
1.4.
And on this page, we're collecting 2.3 million, which is again 1% of the accommodations revenues.
Correct.
So when I look at that, so it's 143 million versus what would be 230 million. We've got an $87 million difference to explain where is that revenue? Where is that revenue?
Which should be your hotels.
Some of it would be hotels.
Right.
I agree with you, Phil. Some of that would be hotels, but it's not even, can't even be in the neighborhood of $87 million. There's only 256 hotel rooms on the island. So,
So you're saying we're
They're
missing
pretty expensive, though.
87 million in revenue?
well, that, yeah.
No,
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 but
we're-
I just
we're-
want to make sure it's
Right.
just clear.
No,
Not
there's
87
there's an
million
80,
there.
there's an 87, where I'm going with this, Jimmy, there's an $87 million reconciling difference between the implied revenue being generated that we're collecting A-tax on versus what's being reported. Short-term rentals is a piece of that, hotels would be another piece of that, but the difference
But
is
it's not
just-
87
it's
million
not-
in
I don't-
revenue.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
not.
wouldn't be 87 million. in
Right,
revenue.
just want to make that clear.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, you could take the 143 million in short-term
Right, I got
rentals,
it. I got
add
it.
the hotel revenue,
Yep.
and there's 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You would add that in, there's a delta there, you would take 1% of that, and
Yep.
that would be the revenue. Well, no, you actually wouldn't, because it's a,
So, and let's just for discussion's sake, say there's 60, say 30 million of that, or roughly 30 million of that's going to the hotels. And you can do the math on how much that would generate per room per night for 365 days. If there's another 60 million in there of revenue that we don't know where it is, and if it's not generating, the concern I have is it not generating license revenue for the city? It's definitely being reported for a tax, but somewhere there's a disconnect, and all I'm asking, I think we just ought to try to reconcile it, because it could be a few $100,000 of revenue.
What do you
to the
get,
city.
how do you get 60 plus 30? Is it 87?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm rounding 87, say, call it 90 million, and 30 of it goes to the hotel, 60 of it is, we don't know where it is.
So you're going high.
We can go 85 and call it 20, we can go 25 and.
It just,
60.
you've got to be really careful when you talk about numbers when you're discussing it with the public, because they listen to one thing and they say, oh my God, we're missing $87 million in revenue.
Well, there's an $87 million reconciling item between what we're reporting on our A-tax collections and what we're reporting as our,
But not revenue to the city.
no. All
Okay,
right.
that's, yeah, just want to make sure that's clear.
So I think we ought to take an effort to try to figure out where that
Yes.
difference is.
Yes, and we haven't, we're trying. It's a work in progress. We're trying. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but yes, we are definitely taking the effort to try. And there are some notes on here that we can just see what our challenges are. And so if we can figure out these challenges, then yes, we probably will be able to get there. Not as to the exact penny, but we can make a good old college try.
Post-grad.
That's all I have.
Anything else on
That's
that?
That's, no,
Yeah, so Deborah, real quick, so all those numbers flying around, we've collected roughly 29 million, right, in our fiscal year so far. You're projecting another 5 million in additional revenue to come in, right? And another 2 million in additional expenses to hit. Rough
that
numbers.
is correct.
So, I mean, we're projected to end the year with a $6.5 million surplus.
Surplus.
That's what we're projecting.
Yep.
And that's your forecast, I get it, but we're pretty close to feel good about the numbers, because, I mean, we're finished, the fiscal year's done. I mean, 6.5, that's significantly stronger than we've done.
Can we
in
have the
prior years.
updated June numbers next month? Because everything will settle in by next month, you think?
Yeah, I will provide the June numbers until we close.
Just like we
Yeah.
always do.
Yeah.
Takes a couple of months.
Yeah, but I'll provide them every month until we finalize the audit.
We'll have a
Yes,
better,
sir.
we'll have a better view, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess where I'm headed a little bit is, when you think about the capital expense schedule that you have on here are numbers that are going out. You know, until everything's settled, I know we can't make a decision, but if we have a $6.5 million surplus,
It's exceptional.
potentially get state money, potentially get federal money. I mean, some of the things that we scheduled for debt, I mean, I would propose we revisit that, like the fire truck or whatever else we have out there. I mean, I think it'd be crazy to take on debt when we have a $6.5 million surplus year. That's my opinion.
If I could follow up that, did everybody read the News and Post and Courier article that Douglas forwarded to everyone about?
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, the Sunday order.
Yeah, I had no idea that so many towns, small towns and municipalities in South Carolina were in so much trouble. Their bond ratings are down. They haven't all had audits. In one case, I think it was one small town, it was maybe a population of 163, but they hadn't had an audit in like 17 years. But I was just aghast that they were testifying and saying that, you know, the accountants didn't have time and they're in tax season and all these reasons. But I just wanted to take a moment to reflect that as long as I've been around, the city, with the exception of right after Hugo, has always had excellent financial reporting. We've always had audits every year. We've always had a clean opinion every single year. It turns out to be that's somewhat unique and not the norm.
It's pretty
Which is
sad.
really,
Yeah.
you know, I think we should be grateful to our staff and especially Deborah and her, you know, her helpers that provide this detailed auditing, I mean, of every single month, every single question that you would possibly have about the financial condition of the city. We're in a very unique position. I know that CARTA, which I'm on that board, and we have a board meeting tomorrow, and they have a financial report. It lasts maybe 45 seconds. And it's a much bigger budget than ours. And they don't go into the depth that Deborah does. And I'd just like to congratulate her and Douglas for keeping our bond rating so high, our credit rating so high. It's been that way forever. This is not something that just happened this year or the last couple of years. It's always been, we've always been in really, really good shape. And I think we should be grateful to the staff for doing that and also to past councils for making wise decisions. So let's just be grateful, for, you know, for what we have. You know, things are pretty good. Good job. And to Debbie. You can pass that along.
That's right, I will.
Okay,
I don't think anybody disagrees, right?
Nope.
I don't.
all right, on to procurement. Douglas, you want to go through the report?
Yep.
For purchases?
Yes, in your packet is a report of purchases between 10 and 25,000 plus emergency purchases. We have the first three on your list were budgeted, included in the budget. The last one is, I'm sorry, yeah, the last one is a unexpected rodent remediation. That cost is fitting within their building maintenance fund, so we could say that it's partially funded, but it wasn't directly spelled out in our budget. But that work had to happen, and
Is there a story here? No.
there is a story. There is a story. It was much worse than expected. There was a little smell and a little, kind of an inkling of a problem, and then they started getting into it, and it was just,
It looks like a full-blown reno going on.
it was a mess. Everywhere in the attic, holes all over the place in the attic. They had been having a heyday for quite some time. But, little bit of a sidebar. Robert and his guys are out of their office currently because of it. They're managing. They're kind of eating in their cars with the air conditioning on. It's a terrible time for it to be happening, but Robert's doing a great job of getting it back into order and getting them back into good, safe, clean environment. So
What's the timeline? Is it
it's
not soon enough, I know.
Yeah,
A
I
month?
would say in 3 weeks, it should probably be wrapped.
3 weeks?
Unfortunately, hottest time of the year, so.
yeah. So nothing else. The rest of those purchases are just routine budgeted purchases.
All right. Any questions on that? No. On to B, discussion and consideration for bid of trimming of the palm trees. Douglas, you want to give us?
Yes, this was,
quick overview?
we requested proposals. We have in your packet, we only got one bid back. It was from Planet Green Tree. They are, I think, the same vendor that's done it in years past, so they've done it for us in the past. This is a budgeted expense. We budgeted $34,000. The bid came in at $31,200. We did ask for this to go forward and for them to hold their pricing for, I think, 3 years. Is that right, Sean?
3-year term.
For a 3-year term. So we would hope to be able to do this for the next 3 years to avoid going out to bid. They've done a good job. Their price has always been fair. So we'd like to engage Planet Green.
Hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, discussion, consideration of 16 Cradle Point R19 mobile routers for $23,984,000 plus the annual service fee for $7,584.
Yes, this is for the police department. Also, this was a budgeted, anticipated expense. These are and Chief can fill you in on the technical aspects if we need to get that, but this is, gives them the internet connectivity inside of their cruisers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item D, discussion and consideration of the public safety drone with DOT, $80,754,000, split annually between police and fire.
Yes, and I apologize. I noticed, just noticing that there's a letter from Axon in your packet, but the actual quote is not in your packet. Quote really doesn't show much other than the fact that it is an $80,754 expense annually. It was in the public safety packet. I'll have it in your council packet. But this is a drone that gives the public safety personnel the ability to see events live and remotely. So this is a capability we talked about through the committee process. It's been included in the budget, and it's here in your packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Unless anybody has questions.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, discussion consideration of the SC Border Security Reinforcement Fund Grant.
Yeah, this one has consideration next to it, but honestly, I don't think there is any money associated with it. This is a grant that the city is requesting, which would allow us to replace the boat that we currently borrow from Charleston County. It would give us a boat and a towing vehicle and a trailer and maintenance for those pieces of equipment. This would require that we do some work with the Homeland Security Division that we're already doing. So it's a little bit of we are working for them, and they potentially will share the burden by giving this grant to cover these pieces of equipment. So again, it would be no expense. I think we have now filed this application, but we just wanted you all to be aware that it's a potential new asset. So we'll have the challenges that we get with owning more stuff, but it would be free to us. Chief, is that, where grant is in, we should know something within a few months, maybe? Okay. But
So
no
nothing really to
expense
do
the city.
for us. Oh,
Yeah.
Douglas, nothing for us.
Yeah, this is really just a notice for you all. There's not if there was an objection to us having equipment, I'm sure you'd let us know, but no money there.
On to F, discussion and consideration of CSC change order 53608 beyond the 15,000 for a total of 68,608. We approved some of that in the prior meeting. I hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this, Douglas? You want to?
Yeah,
We got it all worked out with splits and everything?
Yes, yes. As the agenda indicates, this is partly at the direction, well, entirely at the direction of county, at the council at your last meeting. What has happened is we have detailed out the work that CSE would need to do to get the project to completion. We would anticipate that those other tasks will need to be done, but we would separate those out, get quotes, and come back to
The
council.
ones, yeah, you've got detailed here. Got it.
Yes, yeah, those that are, so we would be approving the total amount tonight, or really at council, to get to that 68,608, which is the professional services we need to get us through the end of the project. But we would need to anticipate that additional monitoring and surveying still needs to happen. It's just it was the will of council
Future,
to, to push that out to see if any other requirements come along, and we can put that work out to bid at the end of the project.
So Douglas,
Yes.
remind me, so the beach sediment sampling, there's two events, so they stay. Is that a pre and post, or?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay, and then on the supplemental surveys, we're dropping one, which would be just the Hamlin Creek. Is that what I'm reading? Am I reading
That
this
is
correctly?
correct.
Okay, and
Yep.
there's still two then
There's still
left
two.
for the south end. Pre and post?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So this is the permit requires more frequent surveying points than what we have historically done on the
Right.
south end.
Okay. And then the same with the benthic and fauna.
That's correct.
Yes.
Pre and post project.
And then what is eliminated? Were there some in the middle that we had to do? And
The ones that were eliminated, so
Yeah.
of the four,
Yeah.
we're doing two now.
Yeah.
Two more have to happen in the future. So they still will have to happen, but we will get that pricing separately, and you'll consider
Like
that.
29.
Yeah, 20, and I think there was a schedule in,
There
the
is, yeah,
schedule,
the
so it's
schedule's out by
years
years.
Right, those
Yes.
were the ones
Right.
that were the years.
those
out.
are
Okay.
years out, correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Can we ask Steve for the council meeting to update his proposal too, so it reflects, because I think all the proposal is still related to the entire, if he could just scope it to what we're approving, that would be helpful. So that's, and when we're approving it, we've got the proposal and the amendment that matches the pricing schedule. And then I think there was one other thing we wanted to discuss too, and I think we took it up at, I know we talked about it at the original beach ad hoc, and I think they talked about it recently too, but and I think even Steve was on board, that now that we've got sort of a fresh renourishment, should we be going back to the annual versus semi-annual monitoring?
Correct.
So, I don't know if we make that motion here or we make that motion at the council meeting, but I think we can cover our additional expense for this by cutting out the semi-annual and going back to an annual. So those are, I think, are 50,000 apiece, yeah.
Yeah, so that is correct. It seemed like the logic would be that we don't, once we have a much larger kind of safe buffer with the beach, we don't need to look at it every 6 months. That annually would be enough. I think Stephen agreed with that. And I don't know that it requires anything other than a vote of council or direction, really, to reduce those, the frequency of those surveys. So I think we can just give him that direction. I think he agrees that that's a smart thing to do.
Okay. So that'll cover the cost. Maybe we can just formalize that at the council meeting, yeah. But, any other conversation on this one? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And the last item, discussion and consideration of proposal for rebranding to Blue Ridge Marketing for $50,150. It says reimbursed by Explore Charleston. I don't know, Douglas, you want to give us a quick overview on
Yeah,
that?
you mind if I mean, there's been some interest in this one, so if you don't mind, I'll take a few minutes and just go back a little bit.
Please do.
A little bit in time. And really, I would trace the genesis of this back to probably 3 or 4 years ago. And the Explore Charleston group really approaches the city and says, hey, what can we do with the 30% money that fits within the state statutes of what we're allowed to do that would benefit the Isle of Palms directly. Examples of this would be the community enrichment plan that was done, funded by them, the mobility study that's underway with them. And this is one that I think actually predates, it may not predate both of those, but it's now been, this is the second year that it's been in the Explore Charleston budget. The goal of this was to have some ability to kind of focus the strategy of the marketing for the city to target family-friendly, really family visitors to come to the beach, stay at the beach. The point has been made that that it doesn't benefit the city from a quality of life standpoint if we are marketing to large, fraternity house events, things of that nature, and that it really is the families that the city has identified as being the most beneficial when it comes to visitation. So this really started maybe a year and a half ago, and there was a graphic designer engaged. That designer came to the city, presented to council a handful of graphics, really logos and graphics, and council reacted at that time and said, we would like for this effort to go beyond just a graphic. We would like for it to be a brand, creating really a strategy, and a more comprehensive look at how to attract the visitation that we would like to do. So the Explore Charleston staff was agreeable to that. They put that in their budget, and like I said, it was actually in last year's budget, and it's in this year's budget again. So they're supportive of it. The city took that, went out to made a request for proposals, had a tremendous response to that effort. Had over 30 responses. The ATAX committee took those responses and got them down to a short list of about 6, then interviewed those 6 and graded individually those 6 firms, and they have generated a recommendation that is specifically for Blue Ridge Marketing. I will say at their last meeting last week, it was pointed out that there were really three firms, 3 of the 6 that were kind of heads and shoulders above the rest. And then once you looked at the 3, they were kind of within points of each other. But the top vote getter for them was Blue Ridge Marketing. I think that we've picked up online the idea that this is really just for a new seal. It's not for a seal. It is for not only a graphic overhaul for all city media, but it is also a strategy of where are these people coming from? How to get the right visitors that you want. So not only does it deliver kind of a graphic and a strategy, but it also goes forward. I think the RFP calls for an additional 3 years of just service to ensure that their plan, their strategy is having the desired effect.
So you opened this up with saying that we wanted to attract more like family-friendly visitors and stuff, and that we didn't want to advertise to fraternities. When has the city of Isle of Palms ever advertised to fraternities to come visit here?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever advertised to fraternities.
Or anything
but-
close to it? I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I hear your point that we've never actively gone out and sought fraternities, but this would be an effort to attract exactly the visitor that you want.
Yeah, that's a more positive message than
All right.
a negative one. You know,
I didn't mean to be
yeah, well, it
offensive to the
gets
fraternities. and I
out
did-
there, and say, oh, we got rid of all the fraternities. Like, no one sitting at the table there been a fraternity, I'm sure I was. But the city mission statement has been around for a few years, and is to be the most sustainable family-friendly beach community in South Carolina. Is that where our mission statement change?
No, and I would say this is to enhance that, further that, so it's taking what you will have identified as a mission and a direction and helping us get there.
One last thing. You said that the logo is not necessarily included. Is
The seal.
The seal.
The
There's
seal.
been a lot of excitement about us eliminating the seal, and that is not what's happening.
Okay. Because that's good to know. Because once you get into that, then that's some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, and it is not the seal. It is
It's
the,
going to stay. Well, I'm sure other people have questions, but I just want to make sure that we clear that up. We never have advertised to fraternities and sororities.
and I apologize to all the fraternities that I may have offended.
I'll tell my brothers.
One.
To my old bros.
Yeah. Which one are you in?
Douglas, what's the, well, a couple of questions. I watched the ATAX meeting, and I think the chair of ATAX, I mean, good discussion, that whole committee, by the way. That committee's doing well, I think. David, appreciate you being the liaison there. Seem to be keeping everything focused. But there did seem to be quite a bit of discussion around the other two
That's correct.
entities that you mentioned.
That's correct.
Blue Ion and Destination, whatever, you know, and all of them being within a few points of each other. And there was also some discussion about the chair of ATAX sending you a letter recommending to council that we also maybe just go ahead and put some consideration into the other two. So the
So-
recommendation here, consideration is on one company, Blue Ridge, which was clearly the top score by several points. But there was also Blue Ion, which is a local company, and then another one that was based out of Boone, North Carolina.
Yes.
That were part of that also. So do we need to be doing anything on that
Well,
before
that's-
we move forward?
So I will kind of summarize what I think their discussion was it did come out that Blue Ridge Marketing was their top vote getter. The point was made during that meeting that Blue Ion has a familiarity with the city already, has worked with Explore Charleston a lot. They're local. There was a lot of positive attributes that the committee felt about that group, but they were not. They actually were number 3 at the end of the day. It was very close, but they were number 3. So the point was made, you know, that Park would write basically a recommendation saying the top vote getter was Blue Ridge Marketing, but the other two were very close. And you know, if I were to summarize, I think that they wouldn't think that you could make a bad choice out of those 3 if you chose to switch from one to the other. But again, at the end of the day, this was the top one of their voting.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, you know, what we have on the agenda is a little different from what I heard.
I think at the end of the day, their recommendation, they decided to stick with the recommendation that their voting yielded. But they wanted to also add the point, just if council had a strong desire to stay local, stay with a firm that had prior history, felt like that was an important consideration for council, I think that they would deem that a valid choice.
And also, the timeline on this is what, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 months?
I think so.
Yeah, mess with the numbers.
Yeah.
That is
Around 6
4 to
months.
6,
There's
yeah.
also, I mean, they would, if we award this, and, you know, we'll see how the vote goes. I'm sure there's going to be a timeline, a plan laid out as to resident engagement, you know, regular meetings, maybe another survey. I don't know what all would take place during that 6 months, but I would hope that there's going to be a lot of community involvement in this, and feedback.
Yes.
Because I think we do really need to help, you know, our residents understand that this is not, even though it got communicated as a replacement of our seal,
Right.
or our logo. It's much more than that. This is looking at consistency within city communication, fine tuning who we are as a residential area and also a resort area, since we're some of both. And at the end of the day, hopefully improve our quality of life, our quality of living, and improve business engagement on the island too. So, David?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would, a couple of things for me. Every organization known to man periodically changes their marketing look, feel, for-profit, not-for-profit, municipality, university, whatever. I mean, I don't know that we've ever done this as a city, and I think it's a valiant effort, and we've got a good partner paying for it out of our money that we have to send them anyway. So I think it's a win-win that we get to control the messaging a little bit more than we have in the past, the look and the feel than we have in the past. It kind of threads the needle of continuing with Explore Charleston, but taking a little bit more control. Rusty, to your point, I mean, we just spent a whole lot of time, energy, and effort on the community enrichment plan with surveys, meeting forums, and it wasn't specific to a look, feel, logo, I'll give you that. But I think we need to, and Douglas, I don't know who's going to oversee this from the city side, but we need to leverage the work David McNair has already done for us if we could short circuit some of this. Not that it's priority critical or timing critical, there's just work that's already been done that we've already asked from our residents that they've already given us a whole lot. We had 750 survey responses back from our residents on the community enrichment. That's a lot. And I just think we need to get these guys up to speed on the community enrichment plan and make sure they can leverage some of that if they can. And the last piece I would have is, I'm assuming Explore Charleston weighed in on picking these guys, maybe not, and that's okay either way. But, we've got Explore Charleston, our Chamber of Commerce, and the resort, who's roughly half our revenue, and they focus a lot on off-season visitors. And this isn't going to affect that. They do their own marketing. I'm not so concerned about that, but they are just a constituent that we need at the table, our chamber, our resort, and Explore Charleston, obviously. So I don't know who's overseeing, but we just need to make sure everybody's voice gets around that table.
David?
Not sure if you remember where I was going. I was going to say, you pulled up kind of the timeline of the effort on the board, I guess. But I think it's a little bit of, how it's being perceived, I guess. And I think that the comment goes back to rebranding, or are we just strengthening our existing brand? That's kind of the way I look at it, is this effort is for us to go back and look is, can we strengthen our what people perceive from our advertising? And that's a lot of what this was focused on, is, identifying what is your target audience, and then how do you best present that, what you want to that audience. And I was going to go back on to you. There was 3 very close ones. There was a really good discussion. I'm not sure I can summarize it all in 30 seconds, but kind of a good discussion back and forth on pros, cons, and everybody had their own opinion.
Yeah, just one last thing. Do you mind? I mean, ATAX obviously looked at all these proposals, did the interviews. I think council, in my opinion, would really need to feel strongly about changing the recommendation that's coming out of ATAX. But, I mean, it'd be nice to be local, but they went through the process, they went through the scoring, they got to who they got to, and kind of got to trust the process.
Scott?
Yep, go ahead, Ben.
So I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to go back to what, Rusty had said before about, we are family friendly. Sometimes we're not family friendly, but I think that what I like about this is that sometimes we have to act in order to ensure that we are doing exactly what our mission says, which is family friendly. And I think this is the step that does that. So it puts together a plan, and maybe it's some of the marketing that we're doing. We just tweak it a little bit so that we do get more families and ensure that we do. But that's I think it's a great step, and I would not go against the ATAX committee on this one.
The only thing I wanted to add was just, yeah, the clarification too. I think there had been some misinformation out there that we're spending additional money, which we're not. We're actually, this is coming out of the 1.1 million or whatever that we sent to Explore Charleston today. Secondly, I think it's great, Explore Charleston working with us. This is one of the buckets of money that we're going to have extreme visibility into how it's actually being spent and deployed. It's collaboration. I think that's real positive. And I guess to reiterate, this isn't a new logo. So I'm all in favor of it. I think we should, they did a great job vetting and looking at the presentations. They're very different, and I think they came to a sound conclusion, and I'd like to support them. So.
If I could say one last thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Totally agree with your last statement in that there is misinformation that we are spending additional funds. That it needs to be known clearly that it is just the funds that are already being spent are being redirected.
Correct.
That's all it is, because that's a big misconception.
And it's in the newsletter today. Josh, thank you very much for that. Sorry.
I would say one other thing too. The 30, this is coming out of the 30% that has to be tourism and marketing directed.
Correct.
We know that these dollars are directed directly at Isle of Palms, for Isle of Palms. Whereas, the 30% tourism and marketing fund that we contribute to each year, every year, we have discussions in the ATAX committee in particular. What part of this is Isle of Palms? How can you pinpoint what part is being spent directly on Isle of Palms to market our island? And, this clearly shows that we've got something here that can be done, that is being funded through tourism and marketing funds that would, hopefully will have some nuggets in there that would benefit our island going forward.
Just staying true to the mission statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been around for years.
Motion to approve, discussion and consideration of proposal for branding to Blue Ridge Marketing for $50,150.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Old business, none. New business, none. Next meeting, August 11th at 5 p.m. Jimmy?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just once.
Thank you.
You can't reject